This is Jacqueline with Connecting Atlanta, and Tony with Octane Coffee here at the Atlanta Tech Village was nice enough to let us utilize his facility. It is under construction outside right now, but they are almost completed and we'll end up having later hours. But if you're in the Buckhead area near Piedmont Linux, definitely stop by for a delicious cup of coffee, tea, or pastries. And is there anything you'd like to say to the people?
Yeah, we're happy having us here. We do events and we do a lot of fun things, but yeah, please come and see us.
We're different than other style type of networking events because our goal is focused on quality type of persons coming so everyone can make a quality connection than it is more about volume. So, and having large groups of people. So in September we'll start some exclusive dinners with some high profile leaders in the community as well. That'll also be benefiting local nonprofits around Atlanta, or whatever the speaker's preferred nonprofit is. So tonight, we always have a speaker that comes out, someone that is successful in business, and we have Latasha Kinnard, who is the CEO and founder of Start Young Financial Group. I'll let her share where she came from, and but she works completely for herself. She's not, so she has to work in order to eat. So anyways, welcome Latasha. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for the introduction. Hi everyone. I had an opportunity to meet everybody, I think. So I will do a brief introduction. As Jacqueline mentioned, my name is Tasha and I am the owner and CEO of Start Young Financial Group and the best-selling author of 20-something and Rich. So my audience is usually young adults. So I primarily work with millennials who are fresh out of college, they have their first job, and they want to learn what to do with their money so that they can lay a foundation for wealth. So I focus on helping young adults accelerate their path to building lasting and sustainable wealth that will impact themselves, their families, and their communities. So it's not just an individual mindset about wealth, it's how can we advance entire communities. And that's what I focus on primarily. My background is actually in corporate America. I worked with Target as an inventory specialist. I worked with them for 2 years, managing some of their largest categories, including batteries, which, if you didn't know, batteries have over 200 locations throughout the store. And I also worked on the headphones category. So I was able to partner with some of the biggest brands in retail like Energizer, Procter & Gamble. I worked with people on the Beats team and just really had a chance to understand how business works and how to manage budgets. So working for a big corporation, they hand you a budget of over $100 million annually. And for a company like Target, they literally give you a checkbook and expect you to manage it. So right out the gate, right out of college, I learned a lot about money management. So I'm not going to go into the details and intricacies of that today because I want to just have a conversation about some questions that I have run into as I've been doing this work. So I've been doing this for 3 years. I've been doing it full time for 1.5 years. I worked at Target Corporation for 2 years and I left when I realized that it wasn't something that I was passionate about. I'm not in the business of wasting my life doing things that I don't love. So once I started to realize that I was much more interested in helping people than I was in making the company millions and millions of dollars a day, it didn't take me long to put in my 2 weeks notice and started doing something that I was a lot more passionate about. So with that being said, I started Start Young Financial Group because I wanted to help people. And while I was working in corporate America, I literally saw my peers, some of them who were making more money than they had ever made in their entire lives and more than their parents combined. I saw them living paycheck to paycheck and was just baffled. Like, didn't have a clue what a 401k was, so it was just leaving money on the table, not investing in a 401k. Had no idea what a Roth IRA is, was not budgeting, just literally living paycheck to paycheck. paycheck, having this YOLO, carpe diem attitude, and not really understanding the consequences that would have in the future. So I started this business, and because my background is in psychology and education, and with that, with my psychology background, I help young adults overcome barriers to action. So a lot of times money is a very psychological issue, and you don't understand why you're not bringing money into your life and why you're not doing what you know you should be doing to build wealth. It's because you have psychological barriers that are blocking you from taking those necessary steps. And then my education background essentially allows me to take extremely complex topics and make them so easy that a 10-year-old can understand it. So when Jacqueline tells people that, Tasha breaks it down, that is my goal and intention. I mean to break it down so that anybody can understand it, because I believe that this information should be so accessible that people can use it and take it to benefit their life. I think that the wealth gap that we see in our country, the extreme disparities that we experience on a day-to-day basis are not necessarily primarily due to income, but primarily due to knowledge. If you don't know how to get there, how could you ever get there? So if I were to say, I want to get from point A to point B, and the only way that I can get there is to drive. If I don't know how to drive a car, how am I going to get from point A to point B? It's impossible. The only way, it's not impossible, the only way is for you to literally learn how to drive a car. And once you get the knowledge, then you actually have to have the courage to get in the car and get from point A to point B. And that's primarily what I teach people to do. So I don't have long, I probably have like 3.5 minutes left or something, but I wanted to survey the group, and if I have one brave person, I would be interested in knowing, if you were to break it down to a young adult and you have to say, this is a basic roadmap for how you build wealth or how you get to a place of financial freedom, what would you say?
Basically, what I would tell them is that they need to start small. Don't try to go out there and win the race in one day. Start investing in small things that can grow, and then build into multiple investments that are all providing multiple streams of income so that they can eventually be on their own and not worry. The biggest thing that we have in our school is on day-to-day living expenses. And once you have a stream of income coming in that covers your day-to-day living expenses, you don't have to worry about working for a paycheck. You can work for yourself. And then that might be able to do even more.
Absolutely. Anybody else have any ideas or anything that they want to share?
I'd just say live as far below your means as possible.
Any other wisdom? So as you guys pour wisdom into me, I will absolutely, I have a framework that I use to work with my clients. And I'm always trying to make it even more simplistic. So from my perspective, I don't want personal finance to be something that's super complicated. So anytime I hear something that's like, that's simple, I can pass that on. I always do. So if you have any type of golden nugget that you'd be interested in sharing, please do. And then I'll give you my idea of how young adults in today's generation, how millennials today need to look at building wealth. That can sometimes be very different from the way that their parents looked at it. And so you can go and share that with people in your life.
Tell them not to depend entirely on the job of acquiring wealth. They need to find a different means and a better means to acquire reoccurring income. For example, you wrote a book. If you get the royalties off book sales coming back to you on a regular basis, that's a way of getting reoccurring income that you won't have to. Not everybody can write a book, but there's different ways you get reoccurring income.
Absolutely. So, for the past 3 years, because of my background, I've been investing since I was a sophomore in college. And the idea of starting small was something that was really important to me. So I realized that I started investing with $50 a month. And that $50, and this was when I was in college, I was like literally dirt poor. And that concept of allowing something small to grow into something big. So anytime I would get extra money, it would go into my Roth IRA. And so I watched it as it grew from $50 a month to thousands of dollars to several thousands of dollars. And then once I got a job, I watched it grow even more as I continued to invest in it. And then I took that and invested in an investment property so that I can begin to get residual income and increase my, and expand my assets and increase my net worth. And so essentially, a lot of the things that I learned about personal finance come from personal experience. However, the finance aspect of my background is literally from interviewing tons and tons of financial advisors. So typically, nobody is thinking about young adults when it comes to building wealth. They could care less. We just don't have enough money to be relevant to a financial advisor. So they don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking to us. And so instead, I act as a representative to say, okay, I know you don't want to work with young adults, but what can you tell me to help them improve their financial situation? And essentially my question is, how does somebody who is not born into wealth build wealth before they're 70, right? Because I know that if I invest in my Roth IRA and if I invest in my 401k, by the time I'm ready to retire, I'll be able to retire. However, I don't want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 70. I want to be able to enjoy it. I want to be able to enjoy my life. I want to be able to do things for my family and send my kids to college without having to worry about who's going to pay for it and those kinds of things. So in today's society, what works for our parents and our grandparents does not necessarily work for young adults. The number one reason that it does not work for young adults is because of student loan debt. So whereas our parents usually started off with a clean slate and they were able to buy a home or whatever, young adults, I talked to a client today, she has $30,000 in student loan debt right out the gate. So that absolutely impacts what she's able to do with the rest of her life. So now, you know, she can't necessarily think about just doing something that she loves. She has to think about, okay, I have bills to pay right out the gate. She's still living at home with her parents, but just because she doesn't have rent or a mortgage, she still has mortgage-like student loan payments. So that's the number one reason why. We can't necessarily rely on the knowledge and wisdom that worked for our parents' generation. The other thing is that, you know, when our parents bought a home, they just took for granted that it was going to appreciate in value. For us, we have no guarantees that that's going to happen, and because the rate of inflation is rising so quickly, even when our homes do appreciate in value, it's literally just appreciating at the rate of inflation. So for our parents, where they may have been able to get some equity out of their home ownership, that is absolutely not the case with young adults unless you buy extremely low. So I normally recommend that clients are buying investments before they're buying liabilities. And in my mind, a home is a liability because it takes money out of your pocket versus putting money into your pocket. So for the young adults of our generation, I'm always encouraging them to think about life from the perspective of an investor, income producing assets that are able to pay for your life, so that are going to provide you with this residual income. You want to be able to start small and grow bigger. So you start with an investment. And once that investment begins to grow, then you can buy a property. Once you have an income property, you're saving the cash flow from that property, then you can invest in more. And then you can begin to grow your assets, increase your cash flow. And that is how the young adults of our generation need to build and accelerate their wealth if they want to be wealthy before they retire. So these kinds of concepts, literally when I'm talking to young adults, they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? They haven't even they're like, and in the Black community in particular, there's not a lot of ownership in general. So when I say you should own something that you don't live in, it is completely foreign. And they don't understand why they would want to do that and why it would make sense. And when I talk to all young adults across the spectrum, they have this idea that they will be able to live the lifestyle that their parents lived in the way that their parents lived it. So I'm going to stop there because I don't want to take up too much time, but I will say that, you know, our generation is very much dependent on the information and the resources that we have passed down to us. The only way that we're going to be able to live a financially free lifestyle is if we have the knowledge and the resources that are going to take us from point A to point B. And unfortunately, you know, I don't have access to all young adults in the world. So those that you know and those that are in your life, definitely make sure that you are pouring into them and that you are sharing this information and those resources with them, whether they are your children, your nieces, your nephew, your grandchildren, whatever the case may be. We need to hear this information because we want to be a part of an economy that is expanding, not one that is shrinking, not one where we feel like recession is always knocking at our back door. So we need to become independent contributors to that society so that we can make sure that it's growing for everyone's benefit. So that's all that I have for you guys. If you want to connect with me, feel free to give me your business card or follow with me afterwards. But I appreciate you guys. You guys are a very attentive audience, and I appreciate you for sharing and giving feedback.
Okay. Thank you, Latasha. You did a fantastic job. Thank you for sharing that. And again, thank you everyone for coming this evening.